Burn it. Burn it!
And so they lived happily ever after. The end.
No, they freaking didn't.
Hey, it's Soul, and this is Warcraft Weekly, where we recap the highlights of the latest Warcraft news.
And I tear it asunder.
Dude.
What?
You're looking pretty snazzy today.
Oh, well, I'm glad you noticed. There's a lot of news this week, so I dressed for the occasion.
Oh, no doubt. You're looking quite festive.
Festive? This is my battle outfit. I'm ready to break shit and spit fire.
Good, because this week is not gonna disappoint. Really, no joke, this is one of the biggest news weeks for Warcraft with almost BlizzCon level hype, minus the bad parts, so let's hop right in. Easily the biggest news coming out this week. Players have been wanting this for years. They've been clamoring pretty much during every Q&A stream, every chance that they could get. Worgen Goblin Heritage Armor. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. I'm just wrong. It's a big difference. Obviously, the biggest news was the worst kept secret coming out of a recent media summit over at Blizzard headquarters. The launch date announcement of World of Warcraft Classic. It's coming on August 27th. It's launching once again as a simultaneous release worldwide. And of course, they have a countdown clock like 100 days out. What's pretty cool is that you'll also be able to choose your realm. You can even name and customize your character 2 weeks ahead of launch. That's really nice of them.
And it'll let Blizzard adjust their layering strategy in advance, the insidious bastards.
WoW had followed up with that, launching a character creator with a dressing room, so you can customize how you want your character to look like when you're standing on a mailbox. Like, hey baby, this is just for show. You know I'm in serious mode when I'm wearing this. Shortly following that announcement, we now have it. The WoW Classic Beta is here. Several rounds of beta invites already went out, mostly going to WoW Classic's biggest supporters and content creators.
And somehow Soul got in too.
Yeah. I honestly didn't expect that. I mean, true story, I didn't sign up until the day after beta started. Maybe I just got super lucky and I was chosen off the random lottery. Maybe I was one of those accounts that was pre-flagged because of some prerequisite I met.
Like having an unhinged jaw so you can take in that big Blizzard
statue. It's probably because I've been subscribed for like forever. Dude, this is like so gross to hold, oh my god. So if you want in, definitely make sure you go to that Battle.net page thing, go to the bottom, check out the beta opt-in page, and make sure you have Classic WoW checked. Because apparently Classic WoW isn't the same as the World of Warcraft.
Duh, they're on totally different levels.
I myself hardly did any testing because I seriously just looked late last night, saw that I got in, and I was like, oh, cool, okay, off to bed. But I did notice one thing. There are only 2 realms in the beta, for PvE and PvP. That's it. Even with WoW Classic's layering technology that I talked about earlier this week, you'd figure that there would be at least a few more realms. This reflects statements coming from a few of the interviews this week that the regular beta phases will be very small, but later there's going to be stress tests and more people may be brought in. So it's hard to say if you folks at home and elsewhere will eventually be able to get in to test, test the things that were there before to see if they're still there. That came off as pretty awkward, but it's sort of funny talking about WoW Classic news because there's less and less to talk about WoW Classic the game. Because we're not trying to speculate what we're looking forward to, we're just double checking that there was fidelity between what's coming and what was. This year, the World of Warcraft is going to be 15 years old. It can get a freaking driver's permit. It's coming back in the form of Classic WoW, and even though I myself am not interested in playing Classic WoW, I think that this news, that what's happening is fantastic. I'm just sharing my personal thoughts here, but WoW Classic it's not about the game because there are no more mysteries and there's nothing to look forward to that we don't already know. It's not even about mine or your personal reaction because you might have already decided that you're coming home or that this is a waste of developers' time. What fascinates me about WoW Classic is the wide reaction from fans and the industry as a whole. That is what is unknown. people are going to finally get a chance to scratch that itch, or to discover the game that they've only heard about in whispers and maybe experienced a little bit on private servers. This is the experiment, and I'm glad that Blizzard has taken it, even though they themselves don't even know if this is going to be successful. There is one more thing that came up during the summit, and it's obviously the notion or the possibility that there could be future Classic realms that open up, and I'm talking about Classic BC, Classic Lich King. Can that happen?
It already has if you go to www.hacku.mate/classicbob.
Blizzard was kind of coy about it, saying that they want to focus on making WoW Classic work first and ensure its success before trying to even think about moving forward in the expansions. How responsible of them, but it is sure fun to think about the possibilities, right? For years we've been hearing the calls across the internet. Let's do progressive servers, or we'll clone the servers and let people transfer, or do seasonal resets, or Philly cheesesteak sandwich. But just like how Blizzard's timeline of launching the different phases is entirely unknown, in fact it's going to be based primarily on how the players are progressing through it, it's going to be them, the classic enthusiasts, who should help decide the direction of how other classic servers are going to go. I don't have a clue about how that conversation's gonna go, but I'm more than certain it's going to be a bloodbath. But that's enough classic news for now. There's a lot of stuff that came out of this Blizzard Warcraft Media Summit thing. If you haven't heard this enough times, I'm going to say it again. Blizzard is going to celebrate 15 years of World of Warcraft and 25 years of the Warcraft franchise. So, what better way to celebrate than by taking more of your money? That's right, Blizzard is offering a special collector's edition of the World of Warcraft, including a box, a statue of Ragnaros.
Dude, it looks like the Fire Lord got dipped in Legion ink. Okay, that's still weird looking.
Frameable art prints without frames. An Onyxia pin. Yeah, a mousepad for you to ruin, 30 days of game time to run up those monthly active users, and alabaster mounts for both the Horde and the Alliance.
Good going, it's recycled content and they're not even pretending this time.
It's not a bad bundle for $100, it's just sold out at the moment. Calm down, just check back every couple days.
Whatever, act the blizz something scarcity.
As a bonus treat, Blizzard teased us with what's to come during this year's anniversary. It's special. There's this little Nefarian pet, cute little bastard, and there's this big daddy, the Obsidian Worldbreaker mount, and it is awesome, holy crap. So how do you get this thing? According to Blizzard, there's going to be special in-game events that take place during the anniversary event, and it caps off with a 25-man queuable raid that has players fight some of the most iconic bosses throughout the game's history. It's not going to surprise me one bit to see famous bosses like the Lich King or the Onyxia fight. But what about some low-key bosses that are no less memorable? Hygen comes from Naxxramas and gave us the infamous Hygen dance. And then in the same raid, there's Thaddeus with the whole color switching thing. And I guess there's Deathwing himself, especially the spine part.
Hey, those aren't even iconic bosses. They're just bosses that pissed people off.
Well, okay, yeah, you have a point. What bosses do you think we'll encounter during the event that might not be what we expect? But I guess I should ask you first, are you going to sign back onto WoW for this mount? I've gotta say, it's pretty awesome. It's gonna feel really badass flying around on this guy. Just make sure you keep him balanced. Moving on, by now you probably have seen it, the Safe Haven cinematic released earlier this week, along with everything else. If you haven't seen it already, what are you doing? Go see it. You know, it's sort of funny, I did a whole breakdown and analysis, and I was wrong about everything, and I was nitpicking about the cinematic, but I totally neglected to just talk about what I thought about it, and I made it look like I had nothing good to say about it. So here I go. This thing was badass. You got two of the biggest bros kicking ass barehanded. Okay, Saurfang did all the work, but still. It's testament to the cinematic team's incredible talent at expressing a very direct message. I get it. There are people all about the whole bad writing shtick, but let's be real. The story of Warcraft has never been about overdoing the exposition or otherwise explaining why a character did this when they woulda, coulda, shoulda done that instead. If you want to say bad writing, hey, whatever you want to think. as opposed to I don't like this writing because it should fully deliver a literary experience despite it being within the expression of a video game is probably a better way of putting it, but just like the Warcraft story, why go through the trouble of explaining everything, am I right? I think the cinematic is great for the Horde. You get it, for the Horde, for the Horde. Sorry. I feel pretty darn bad for the folks on the other side, though. This is the 4th cinematic piece that features Saurfang when you consider the intro. And from cinematics to extra quest content, and maybe to a lesser extent, representation at the top skill levels in-game, do you think there's a Horde bias?
Okay, now that's a stupid question.
Okay, probably. But let's consider the fact that there is a lot of story the Alliance is sitting on, and it's just a matter of time before all that stuff bubbles up under our butts and explodes. There's Kalia Menethil, who so far has, I think, literally done nothing in this expansion. Talia Fordragon is another obvious thread that may lead players back to a Lich King related story. The story of Ilaria, Turalyon, and their son Eretor is bound to end in some sort of conflict or tragedy. Poor Varisa needs to do something. Hey, I'm a Windrunner too, where's my hidden power? Rathion's presence is dropping hints at future involvement and probably some interaction with his BFF Anduin. Tyrande is still sporting her Night Warrior mode, and there's also explaining the origins of her apparently vengeful goddess. Mekatork has got to get up sometime, maybe like Magni, he's gonna come out of it with a completely different,
What?
Nothing. The point is, there's more coming. The current story is just breaking down some of the old Horde storylines while planting the seeds of tomorrow, building up new conflicts and stories and characters for us to eventually slaughter week after week after week. Anyway, moving on to the last item here, there was also a PTR build deployed which added a couple of things.
And one very important thing.
Yes, that's right. It added maps.
Oh man.
With this PTR build, all characters were wiped clean, so we can get a more accurate look at how the 8.2 experience is going to feel. And just not feel, sound. Take a listen to this. This is Lorthamar Therin, leader of the Blood Elves, and his voice has had a slight change.
Sylvanas Windrunner was our kingdom's protector. Had she and her rangers not met Arthas with such fierce resistance, our people might no longer exist.
The Horde's champions will drive every last Naga from the palace. Azara will pay for what she's done.
If you think Sylvanas is acting like a cartoon villain, well, Lorthamar sounds like one. Setting that aside, my early impressions of patch 8.2 is changing a little bit, that it's not going to be just a quick romp through the content like the Broken Shore patch was. For example, the Benthic gear that I talked about, that I said could potentially gear you up really fast, super nerfed. The cost of the upgrade tokens went way up, and the tokens themselves are no longer account bound in this build. Personally, I like the intentions behind the change, because progressing down this path is going to do a much better job at making it feel like you earned it. As for the specific changes in the numbers though, I think it's gone way too far in that direction. Because in the last build I said that it would take you approximately 1 week to upgrade a single piece of gear to item level 430. In the current build, it's estimated that it'll take 5 times as long for a single piece. Now that's only an estimate, but from the looks of it, alts are going to be screwed by this change. But don't react too quickly, because the point I'm making is that this is the PTR. Obviously things are going to change. Obviously things are changing. I'm gonna have to do more testing to determine if this cost increase is being offset somehow. Perhaps there are other sources of these pearls that you need to get for these upgrades. Related to this build, one of the interviews that took place involved an upcoming essence. These are the new Azerite powers that are coming in 8.2, and this essence comes from PvP. No, it's not testable yet, but an article suggests that with this essence, you'll be able to choose a 5th PvP talent that you can also use outside of PvP. Like many who had saw this at first, I was like, what? But then I actually read the article. The article does in fact say that you can choose a PvP talent with the new essence, but that's the writer of the article who writes that. Below is the actual quote, which I'm going to read off to you. There's a ton of new options and things for players to go for, including PvP essences. The rated PvP essence, where if you go through rated PvP, you can get an essence to give you an extra talent. We thought it would be cool, but make it for PvP. Since it's an essence, it's part of your character. That's an opportunity for people to use some of those PvP talents in PvE situations. You might have PvEers looking at essences to wonder how to get that. So the quote doesn't say anything about choosing a PvP essence, just that some of those PvP talents can be used in PvP situations. So as an example, as a protection paladin, imagine this. I spec for Inquisition, which makes the target take 15% additional damage as long as I'm using melee attacks on it. So for real, with a single ability, I add 15% damage to raid DPS, okay. Or I can spec for Luminescence, which makes 20% of all healing done to me heal everyone within 20 yards. And that's just one spec. Take a look at your PvP talent kits and see how much you could break encounters. So the way I see it, there's like a negative 20% chance that a single essence is going to justify redoing the PvP talent UI to suit adding a 5th talent selection. And of course, it's going to break the game. It's much more likely that this essence is going to be treated like the legendary rings in Legion, the soul of the High Lord, the soul of the whatever, that give you a fixed talent that's already decided for you. So it's more likely that I'll get a reasonable talent like Steed of Glory or Warrior of Light. It's not nearly as game-breaking. It's a slightly interesting choice that's unique to my spec, and this is something that the essence gives us, and that's kind of cool. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm making an example of why sometimes misunderstanding the facts can lead to unwanted reactions. And that's pretty much a wrap, folks. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do with the Classic WoW beta. I'm more than likely going to do at least a few streams so I can find out how bad my memory is. I mean, like, for example, I think I told a story just earlier this week about, oh yeah, one of the first things I got was a weapon, and it wasn't really a weapon, it was actually a piece of armor, but oh well.
Point and laugh, everyone. He's a liar.
But it would be silly of me to think that me getting into the beta wasn't due in part to you folks at home and on the toilet. Don't forget to flush. You might have given me a little bit of that notoriety, a little push, maybe pity, to get flagged. So I want to thank all of you for joining me and continuing to support me by watching and subscribing and liking the videos. And for those of you special folks, giving me your actual cash money so I can keep talking to you about video games. It's amazing. You're all awesome. And I'm grateful to have shared just a moment with you folks today. And Bob's happy too, I guess. So I'll see you folks next week for more fun and more antics. And if I can manage to, I'll see if next week I can do a feature on a certain faction that might make big waves in the future, and you might have forgotten about them. I look forward to sharing that and so much more with you. But until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy. I didn't shave. I didn't shave. I am a dumbass.